Welcome, everybody, to the CFFLists Waiver Watch Draft for Week 5. I'm your host, Jay Mill. I got my partner, as usual, Willie B. Joined this week by two powerhouses. We've got John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar, and also the godfather of CFF, as we like to refer to him. And we've got Luke Probasco of the rapidly growing G5 Hive, where you can get all the great off-season, especially off-season information on what those G5 coaches are thinking with their rosters. We're going to get back to you both here shortly before we start the draft, but as usual, we want to go through a quick recap of last week's results, which I would say overall, as a group, we did a great job. I bounced back. John, we will bring you in on some bad news we discovered last week in terms of previous performances. I ended up with the second worst pick of all time, but I made myself feel better about that by pointing out that John has not done so well in the waiver draft in previous seasons, so he's going to hope to redeem himself because he joined me with a couple of those top 10 worst slots too. But we're going to see you bounce back this week. So I felt better knowing I was in good company with you and Jared there in a couple of those appearances. And unfortunately, Willie B tracks all of that for bragging purposes later, so we can't run away and hide from that.
So John, don't let him bring you in. You are on the list 3 times in the top 10, but he has the 2 worst. So don't don't let him bring you down like that.
I would say some of it might be confusion. Initially, John was picking players that were great pickups, but maybe not necessarily for this week, which is the purpose of this exercise. Is we want to find players to help everybody plug holes immediately if they're in an emergency situation and pick up guys that can score the most now for Week 5. But again, this recap is a good one. We all performed well except for Benjamin Jacob, who we brought in, but we will give him a little bit of an excuse. There were 2 really big wild cards here that affected his 44.5 score. The last-minute scratch and no awareness that Ty Edwards wasn't going to play at all after probably being the biggest waiver pickup last week, the running back from West Virginia. I think the Fantrax note was at like 520 for that West Virginia game that he was probably not going to play, even though he was going through warm-up. So he got a 0 there. And then the big mystery, Willie, I thought maybe Eli Raritan, the tight end from Notre Dame, was also an injury scratch. But we went to the PFF stats, and what'd you find there for old Eli Raritan, who put up a legitimate goose egg?
Yeah, I think we looked at that last night and
You said he had 40 snaps.
Yeah, he had 40 snaps. So
and 0 targets, guys. So we assumed when he saw 0 targets that
Is that
he just
good?
didn't play. What's that? What'd you say? What'd John say?
John said, "Is that good? Is that good?"
The 40 snaps? I mean, that was down from the previous week. So he had 70 snaps the week before. So maybe something was going on. Maybe he was.
Yeah, maybe they just had him in certain situations because he's nursing something. But big asterisk and red flag there by Eli Raritan, who got the 0. But he did hit on Quay Ashley from Ball State, who fell victim to John's UConn Huskies. But he still manages 19 points, and he's got probably an even easier schedule ahead. He was a guy that, unfortunately, this week has a bye, so he won't be drafted. But I assume if he was playing this week, one of us would grab him this week, and he'll be around, and next week's probably as well. And then Chris Brazel from, Tennessee continues to be the clear number 1 there, so he got that. The way I wanted to look at this, I was telling Willie, though, is if you look at our performance as a group, we're looking to get 20 points for quarterbacks, 15 points for running backs and receivers, and aiming for 10 points from the tight ends. We color code things with green and red. The darkest green is the best performance. The darkest red is the worst. But if you look across the board, like we legitimately hit on 3 out of the 4 quarterbacks with Chamblis from Ole Miss for Jake, who led the group with 102.9 points. He's now the second best scorer of the year. Minicucci continues to be steady, had 21.5, and then I had Calandria from UNLV, who again doesn't have a really high ceiling, but has a floor that seems to be right around that 22 to 25 point level. That if you're looking for more consistency, both of those guys, Minicucci and Calandria, are doing that. We don't know how long Chamblis is going to be the guy there at Ole Miss, so we'll see. But Additionally, though, at running back, 5 out of the 8, ended up in double digits. And then at receiver, 6 out of the 8, ended up, performing well. And we hit on the other 3 tight ends that weren't named Eli Raridan. Valari had his 8. Kanak continues to be a big part of the Oklahoma offense with 10. And then Mason Minnie had 11.4 for Cal in one of those late games. Unfortunately, his team didn't do so well, though. But again, Jake across the board did really good. Dante McMillan was one of his running backs. Duplessis from Delaware. He had 2 Delaware guys. Three of the Delaware guys all performed as expected. Joe Nathan Silver, Duplessis, and Nick Minicucci. So Delaware is proving to be out of the 2 teams that are new to the FBS, the one to get all the players from. But Willie, any final thoughts? I know you had another good turnout with 81.2 points. I had a big improvement, got back up in the 70s with 77.2. But yeah, any final thoughts on last week's players before we move on to the draft?
Jake, second as far as our guest pickers. So it looks like the number to beat for you gentlemen is going to be 84.2.
And what, for those tuning in that might not understand the concept in terms of what he means by the score to beat, we do like to grab the top 4 guys in terms of our guests and have a little bit of a playoff round in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the season, starting from weeks 8 to basically weeks 12, or maybe even week 7 to week 11. So yeah, the number to beat right now would be somewhere in the mid to high 80s to be able to join us. And if you don't want to join us, you can try to tank and just be a one and done. But yeah, we're really happy to have you. And as we roll into the draft board for this week, again, welcome John, welcome Luke. John, let us know what you've got going on. I know you got the rookie big board that's, you're always putting waiver picks out there on your own, separate from this, probably some longer term guys that people can look for. You're on top of the new College Fantasy Football Hall of Fame that you started. Let people know where to find that and some of the other things you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think this is the 4th year I've come on with you guys. If my memory's with me all right. And I started the College Fantasy Football Hall of Fame this summer. Right now, obviously, we have to wait till the end of the year to add some more wings to this show, to the site. But that'll happen around January and March of next year. So that's exciting. And this year I started a 10-minute waiver or 15-minute waiver wire show with my partner Matt Hicks on the rookie big board. It's just a quick dump of about 6 to 9 players every week, just to kind of wet your whistle. Obviously, you should do more homework and watch shows like this one, but it gets you ready on a Sunday night for the week ahead.
Right. Yeah, and I had given you and Matt a shout for keeping things nice and concise.
That's what we wanted.
I like to keep this even under an hour because you don't want to drone on it too much with some of this stuff. People know what they're looking for in terms of information. You guys do a great job of really keeping it nice and tight. So I would recommend everybody tune in there.
And I gotta say one thing: it's nice to have 2 Huskies who are fantasy relevant for the first time in years.
Yeah, and it looks like you got a third running back there that kind of came out of nowhere, at least to me, that was doing really well yesterday too, besides Cam Edwards.
Yeah, we'll find out if he's as good as Mel Brown. Mel Brown, I think he's out for the year now, if my memory serves me. So, okay. We've been finding a
broken collarbone.
Oh, yeah.
Broken collarbone. He's out for at least 6 weeks.
Okay. We found a running game for the last 3 years. I have to admit that with Jim Mora.
Yeah, no, they're looking good. But yeah, John, we look forward to your insight here, and then seeing who you pick. Our other guest is the other half of the G5 Hive. We had Justice on. I think Justice has the high score for the year. Willie, is that accurate? Luke's partner.
Yes, he does.
117 last week or the week before. So they are the duo that started the G5 Hive a couple years ago. I know they've got a rapidly growing following. They're over 1,000 YouTube subscribers, which Luke, Justice was explaining to us how along with the additional followers, you got a lot of hate also, which I told him just means that you're doing something good. If you're getting all that attention, if you're getting enough attention to get the hate, you're doing something right, I think.
I remind Justice that, they hate us because they ain't us. People are entitled to their opinions. We're just out there putting it out like you guys out. People can clip it. They can do whatever. We're gonna be wrong. We're gonna be right.
Right.
But yeah, we're just trying to help people out, especially in college fantasy football too. Because it's a growing forum, and there's not a lot of place. I mean, it's getting bigger. There's a lot more people doing it.
Right.
Which is great for the the activity and the sport of college football.
Right. No, we appreciate it. And for those that haven't heard of the G5 Hive and are just being exposed to it, and if you're playing college fantasy, it is an excellent, probably one of the best resources to kind of dig into the depth charts, especially in the off season as they get, their forte is getting these interviews with the local beat writers because we can't be in all places at all times. So they rely on the interviews with the local beat writers who are more than happy to come on and kind of share what they've learned in spring practices and during fall camps and everything else. It probably will help all of us now that they closed the spring transfer window, right, guys? What real quick thoughts on that? Are we happy that they closed the spring transfer portal window? I know I am because depth chart wise, we can keep better track of everything now.
I'm excited for the one transfer window. I think they're technically keeping the spring transfer window, even though it's like right during the winter time and before Christmas, but they're calling it the spring window.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be some sort of vote around that timing because coaches will complain about it's right around we're prepping for a bowl game.
Right.
But then there's Christmas and all the family activities, and I got to spend time away from my family because I'm trying to recruit my own team and all of this stuff. So I prefer the one window. I would prefer the window time to be changed to be after spring.
Right.
I think, again, from an academic standpoint, you're at the end of the semester. People can get their degrees. They can go somewhere else. That's the part that we often forget about. Yeah, you could do it right at that December time point because then you're mid-semester and then you can get to a new school in a chance to learn that playbook quicker. But I think it gives you a chance, like, hey, if you're a senior who's enrolling early, you can get your chance to feel out where you kind of lay. And if you're somebody who's coming back like, hey, is this what I want to be a part of? And then obviously that 30-day window when a coach leaves, you still have that opportunity if something changes. I would prefer to see it be after the spring.
Right. All right. I just think, some limits. Everybody seems to agree there needed to be some limitations. So I'm happy to see it at least, scaled down a little bit. John, it looks like you were shaking your head yes. So you seem to be in agreement with just fewer options to transfer. We're not saying kids shouldn't be able to transfer, or at least I'm not, but just limit it a little bit. It's just like the Wild West here for the last year and a half.
And I am an educator, and these young men, I know there's it's a challenge on college campuses, but they should not be leaving a school like in April of their freshman year when there should technically be in classes. I mean, most of these young men are not going to the NFL, so they should still at least be trying to get an education. So I think we've lost that in this narrative along the way. Now, obviously, I'm a bias as a teacher, but I do think they should be trying to earn their college degree.
Right. Agreed. All right. Well, there we go. We will now get off the NIL soapbox. And John, I know you're probably the earliest riser because of that school schedule and getting up early to get to school every day with your kids. So you've been up all morning working on your waiver. You've already tweeted, 18, 19 times this morning. So let us know who you're thinking. Answer your own poll. Who are you picking in the first pick here of the waiver draft for week 5?
Well, it seems obvious, and I couldn't believe I got the first pick, but I'm going to take running back Dylan Riley of Boise State. I think he's at 7% ownership. He's just coming off a whopping 57.5-point day, against Air Force with 5 touchdowns. I mean, I know it's easy pickings, but to me, I'm going to put some very healthy fab bids in for Dylan Riley of Boise State. If he's the guy, we love that system, right? Who doesn't like the Boise State running backs?
Yeah, the funny thing about that pick, John, is he wasn't even part of the dilemma when we were talking about which, there was that big question of which Boise running back is going to be the key guy. He was the third option. People weren't even calling his name. They were looking at the other two that were there, and now this is the guy that's emerged from the battle.
And he got 19 points the week before. He had 123 yards rushing. So yeah, I'm gonna fly with him this week.
Right. Yeah. Good choice.
I like that pick, John. Because Sarah Gaines is banged up. He got 3 carries, but they were limiting. They were holding him back. So we'll see if he plays more in that game against App State. But if he doesn't, that's a great pick.
Yes, yeah. I'll take the risk for sure.
Yeah. And I think he was the high scorer for the week.
I think
maybe out of all players. Yeah. All right, Willie, I know you're trying to find logos there, but if you want to go ahead and pause and
I'm
grab
ready.
your first pick. Well, I see you got it in there. Okay, now.
No, we're ready.
Okay.
No, that's obviously that was the number one guy to get, but I'll be happy here, and we'll take Dante McMillan from Eastern Michigan.
Okay. I had both.
He's 6% rostered, coming off of 19 carries for 126 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, so I imagine that this number should pick up. He is averaging 16.4. They get Central Michigan this week.
Yeah, who's not very good against the run.
Not very good.
Yeah. My note on McMillan, Willie, was I really love the trend. He's in the last 3 games, he's gone from 8 to 13 to 19 carries. So you got to like the way that that's looking in terms of the charting there in terms of his volume. It's gone way up, and he should be a great performer during Maction.
Yep, and I love the yardage. That yardage is shooting up.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I got a couple extra at every position, so I'm kind of torn who I take here because I don't see a big standout from the group. In terms of somebody I desperately want. But with that said, I'm going to go back to the drawing board here. Guy that I've been kind of pushing all waiver draft season, and that's he had probably no, he actually had a pretty good game against Oklahoma State too. He had 18 points, I think. But that's Dominic Richardson from Tulsa.
Ooh.
He's proven to be a legitimate workhorse, and he's going against Tulane, who Fantrax has rated as the 109th best against fantasy running backs. So I like Dom Richardson. Amazingly, we've hyped him up all we can. During the offseason, we think we had him at running back 56, which was a little higher than most. He's probably been on the waiver watch for 3, or now he'll be on here for 3 out of 4 weeks. Averaging 17 a game, 31 attempts this week against Oklahoma State for 146 yards. In the upset win against his old team. Don't forget, before Baylor, he was at Oklahoma State, so maybe the coach was helping him get a little redemption there against his old team. But looks like the carries aren't going to stop. He's a hard runner who was playing in the Power 4 level for a reason, but now that he's at the Group of 5, he's got a chance to keep it rolling all season.
I saw that whole game on Friday night, and I thought he looked big and strong against Oklahoma State.
I agree. Yeah, because that's the thing. We talk about it every week. A lot of these players are just numbers, and there's no way we can see every single player. So it's nice when you can actually just hone in on one game and really watch what players look like on the field instead of just looking at numbers on Fantrax. So it's nice when they match up, when they pass the eyeball test and they have the good numbers.
Yes.
The guy I will mention from yesterday that did that for me was Robert Henry from UTSA. I mean, he just looks incredible.
He looked great.
It looked awesome the way he runs. But anyways, Luke, you got back-to-back picks here going with your number 1 and 2. Let's see what you're going to go here. See if you keep the running back train going.
Well, I think I am going to keep this running back train going because honestly, out of every position, this honestly kind of seems like the hardest one to find great options. So what I'm going to do is take with my first pick, I am going to take Seth McGowan, running back for Kentucky, 29% owned.
Yep.
He's got rush attempts of 18, 15, 18. He's got no game under 78 yards rushing. He had 1 touchdown week 1, 2 touchdowns week 2, 3 in week 3, a bye. So that means he's got 4 in the tank for this week at least. We got just John. He's a teacher. He knows how math works. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it goes.
Right,
So
just increase every week.
yeah, they have South Carolina this week, and we just saw what Ahmad Hardy and Missouri was able to do in that running game against South Carolina. So I like Seth McGowan there, and then I'm going to go relative with my next pick. I'm going to try to play it safe here. There's a couple of options, big swings that I could do, but one that I think I'm going to go with as a safe option here. They play Rice this week. He is 13% owned, and that is Navy's running back Alex Texa. He's had 15 attempts week 1, week 2, week 3, had a bye week this week, 89 yards rushing, 111, 72. He's got at least 1 touchdown in every game. He just gives you this safe floor. I should at least get 15 points. So I'm going to go with a floor guy here with Alex Texa.
No, I think you technically sniped me there since we're snaking back. That's who I was planning to take next. I wanted to get my running backs out of the way because I agree with your logic. That seems to be the most limited position. I do have a couple extras, but not the ones that I like quite as much as I like him. Watching them play the week before, it's clear that they're gonna use him, or at least to give him a couple shots at the goal line every week. Heidenreich is your big play guy. The only thing you have to worry about is the quarterback getting the touchdown to the goal line, but they're at least going to give him probably the first shot at the goal line every time they get down there. Is what it looked like to me when I saw them play the week before, because they had the bye. I mentioned him as the guy last week I would have taken, but they had a bye, so I couldn't grab him last week in the waiver draft. So obviously his percentage of rostership didn't change much since they were off. But that's a great pick. So with that, I think I'll now wait for my next running back, and I'll go ahead and open up the wide receiver game here and take another guy who's kind of a waiver favorite last year of mine. Grabbed him in a few leagues late, and think that he continued to kind of be underrated this offseason, and that's Jordan Napier from San Diego State. He's rostered on 19% of leagues. He ended up with 31 points last night, and he had 14 the week before. What I like most is his targets the last 2 weeks are 12 and 10. So he's a guy that they want to touch the ball. They give him a few carries here and there, which is the same as they used him last year. So again, he's a guy you do not have to worry about getting opportunities. And they're playing Northern Illinois, which doesn't scare me. Regardless of Fantrax 39 ranking they've placed on NIU against receivers, that doesn't bother me that they're going against Northern Illinois. I think he's going to be a good option, not just this week, but for the rest of the season.
Great pick. Love that.
Good. I thought you were going to snipe me.
Okay.
So happy that you didn't. I'm gonna go with there's three guys that I wanted to take, and Dylan Raleigh was the only other one that I'm going to get, and that is going to be Ryan Davis from Utah. He's coming off back-to-back 12 target games, 10 receptions. He has not gotten into the end zone yet, but that's coming. But his last 3 games, 17.8, 19.1, and they had 17 yesterday against Texas Tech. They get West Virginia, who's not very good. We have them ranked. Actually, they're ranked 90th against the pass.
Okay.
And he is 7% rostered.
West Virginia's given up probably given up 7 TDs in the air, which is definitely on the high end, kind of up there with the most of definitely in the bottom 25% of every team. So opportunity to get the end zone here. I like it. All right, John, we're not doing back-to-back picks here again, but it's your pick, and then we go back to Willie. We're going to kind of go in a normal order after this pick that you make.
I can't believe that I was impressed with this offense, but on Saturday night, I had my 2 TV sets on. I was going back and forth, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the Rutgers passing game is good. I mean, it was a fun game to watch. Iowa smacked them. You knew it. KJ Duff.
Yep.
I'm going to take the wide receiver. I mean, the numbers are silly here. He has scored 16, 17, 19, and 16 fantasy points. He's had 100 yards once. He scored 2 times. And I think Rutgers keeps it going for now, throwing the ball.
Yeah. John, I answered your poll this morning with KJ Duff out of the group you put up there in the kind of secondary podcast that Willie and I do when we do the year-to-date leaders. Ian Strong has been in the top 16 receivers, since the season started. But I've pointed out to him as a guy that watches Rutgers and lives in New Jersey, and my son played there. Obviously, I'm watching closer than others. I legitimately think, and I've said it all year, this is the best group of wide receivers Rutgers has ever started as a whole in their history.
In my lifetime, I don't remember him having wide receivers like this.
No, we're really happy over here because all we've ever wanted was a Rutgers offense that could actually throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. and that's what they're doing this season. Like, these aren't like they've got, Sheffield in the slot. They've got, but they've got big guys everywhere else that they can just throw it up there. And Kalimanakis, or however you say it, is actually very accurate this season. I think he's improved from throwing 58% completions into the 70s. So you've seen a big stride there from him as well.
Jeremy, there was a series in the second quarter, and I couldn't believe strategically, I've never seen Rutgers do this. They threw the ball 20 to 30 yards down the field outside the hash marks 3 times in a row. I was like, am I actually watching this with Rutgers? I mean, it was, and then they got the pass interference on the third throw, I think. So I'm like, hey, man, if they're going to throw 20, 30-yard shots, I'm in.
Yeah. And the thing that's really the adjustment for us mentally is Schiano teams have traditionally just been all about defense, and then it's the defense that blows the game. And they were controlling Iowa pretty nicely the whole game, and then the defense gives up 2 late fourth quarter touchdowns to blow it. But that's enough Rutgers talk. There's not enough fans out there for us to keep their interest at this. But go get you Rutgers wide receiver 2, because believe it or not, Rutgers wide receiver 2 is better than other teams' wide receiver 1 this year, which is amazing. All right, Willie, back to you now for your third pick.
Yeah, I have to find a quarterback who can get me that 30 points.
Okay.
We finally made it to 20, but I'm going to go ahead and take Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech.
Ooh.
Okay.
He's
I'm glad you took him. I thought you were going to take another one that I like.
I got you.
I'm glad you took
a back-to-back 30-point plus games. He's had 5 passing touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's had 3 rushing in the last 2 games. So they get a NC State team who's not very good against the pass. They give up almost 300 yards through the air.
Mm-hmm.
So Kyron Jones should be good for 2 to 3 scores, through the air and with his legs.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that one. I've got one main target, but I've got a lot of quarterbacks, so I'm going to go ahead and skip quarterback for now, even though it's tempting to take the main one that I want. The others aren't far behind. So I think I'm going to finish out my wide receivers, and I'm going to go with Justice Ross Simmons from Syracuse. If you have room there with his hyphenated name, Willie.
Yep.
He's only 8% rostered. Gill was the guy everybody was going after in the drafts this season. But Ross Simmons is about 1/10 of a point higher in his average right now at 16.3 versus Gill's 16.2. Out of his last 3 games, he's had 25, 8, and 22, but the 8 was against Colgate where he wasn't needed. So don't be scared off by that 8. Don't even worry about the 16.3. Look at him as a guy who's going to get you 20 points and is well targeted there, by the Orange Men. Oh, you've got him to
Jeremy,
fill. Yep.
I want to applaud you. You got Tulsa, you've got San Diego State, and then Justice Ross Simmons from Colorado State. So there's a lot of G5 on this team.
Not bad, and I tend to lean that way a lot in my history of CFF. Like everyone, we started our home league with just the big conferences. We weren't even calling them Power Five back then. You just had the big conferences, and every year we'd take a vote. Which conference do we want to add until we eventually had every team? And I think that's a good way for a lot of people to start, just so that they're not so overwhelmed. And I've heard a lot of new people this year saying like, yeah, I've got a league going, but it's just Power Four. That's great. But then I would just recommend to those guys, hey, you might get a little bored if it's just Power Four and you're going to miss out on a lot of action. So just start taking those league votes to add a couple conferences every year, and as you get more comfortable with it. But once we had all the teams, I tend to go heavy G5 in all my leagues.
More points equals more fun.
There you go. There you go. All right, Luke, back to you, and then we'll go to John. No more snakes.
All right, with my pick, Jeremy, I'm going to take a guy who is 0% owned.
Nice.
This might be on a limb, but you can see at the very, very small, at the very bottom, there's points based on 4-point passing touchdowns. So I want a guy who can run the ball at quarterback. Now, they have a Mountain West matchup this week. We just saw Josh Johnson get pulled. Liam Sark comes in there. He's had back-to-back weeks of 22.68 points and 33.02 points. He's throwing the ball more. He had 248 yards passing against Boise. He had 20 attempts. The week before, he had 12 attempts. He had 111 yards rushing against Boise. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Hawaii's defense is not Boise State's defense. Give me Liam Sark for the opportunity to get me that 30-point game from a quarterback.
Yep, I'm just trying to get a spelling right. But, yeah, it's a guy that at 0% was definitely off my radar. I love
maybe it. Maybe a reach at this point, though.
Maybe not. I mean, you just pointed out his last two games. He's turned it on. So,
he had 12 rushing attempts 2 weeks ago, and then last night he had 20.
Yeah.
So obviously he didn't get to start, but he came in, and that offense seems to be doing better when Liam is under center. Yep. And they put up 37 points against Boise State. So
and both of their losses,
like them this week.
Both of their losses, the offense doesn't seem to be the problem. They've given up 49 in back-to-back weeks. It's something that Jared actually talks about a lot. There's nothing wrong. We're not drafting these guys because we're cheering for their teams. We're drafting these guys because we're cheering for them to score points. It's actually a good situation when you play on a team with a bad defense, because that means you're going to be playing from behind and you need to try to get points. So Air Force being on what looks to be a really bad defense might not be as much of a reach as Luke is suggesting here. I think it's a good pick. Nice, off the radar. I have to see if he's owned in the 60-team league. Let me actually check that now. Yep, of course. 60-team league, you can't get anybody. Yeah, even the 0% guys. So somebody, maybe it's 0.3%, because somebody has him in the 60.
Yeah,
crazy. All right, back to you, John.
So I'm looking at the board a little bit, and I'm comfortable with two quarterbacks. So I'm going to take the chance there that I can get my guy, and if not, I'll settle for the second guy. The position that I think is weak right now at this week, based on matchups, is wide receiver. So I'm kind of looking at my board, and I want to get a wide receiver I think has got the best quarterback in a decent situation with the good matchup. I like Terrell Anderson, North Carolina State, attached to C.J. Bailey. C.J. Bailey's a very good quarterback. He's throwing the football all around the yard. Anderson's coming off a big day. And I have a feeling you took Chiron Drones, Willie. I think this is a sneaky shootout game between Virginia Tech and North Carolina State. So I'll take that. We just saw what Mensa did and Duke did against North Carolina State. Maybe, maybe we can get the same thing, so we get a little bit of a shootout here.
I'll take it. That's for sure. Yeah. So he's 7% rostered there. Yeah, I like that. I was hoping that you wouldn't snipe me there, which luckily you did not. Um, uh, let's see. We're gonna go. I think we'll probably stay on that train of thought with you, John, as far as wide receivers. And so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the one I want here. We're gonna take another Tulsa guy, and that's gonna be Zion Booker.
He was my other guy. It was
Nice.
those two.
Yeah, so he's 8% rostered, coming off two back-to-back 10 target games, 17 points, and he had 11.9 against Oklahoma State. Didn't get in the end zone. That's what we need to have again. It's been about 3 weeks. They get Tulane. They're 100. Fantrax has them 120th, and officially they are 99th in the country as far as their pass defense.
Passing yards allowed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Tulsa's kind of, we've mentioned Rutgers. Tulsa's another one of those teams. Like the last couple of years, you just haven't been able to buy into their offense or specifically their wide receivers. They had Joseph Williams who moved to Colorado, but they just haven't been able to get it going to where you could feel like you could count on anybody routinely. But Zion Booker has emerged as clear of a wide receiver one as you can get. It seems like the new staff there has not hesitated to make it known who they like to get the ball to, and that's Dominic Richardson and Zion Booker, and that's just about it. So I think we've got those two represented here. They've both represented the last 3 weeks, but I think that's because of everybody's hesitancy to think that Tulsa was really like it. They were thinking it was a fluke that their offense was actually, moving the ball. But yes, it's a good offense, and again, I don't know how good the defense is going to be there in Tulsa, but the offense is going to put up some points and some yards. So not a bad team to have players.
Yeah, we're not worried about defense right now.
Yep. Well, I'm going to take. Go ahead. Even though I had a few, I'm going to go ahead and not let John beat me to the guy I want at quarterback, and that's our guy Brendan Lewis from Memphis.
He was one of my two.
Okay, one of you two. So you're going to get one still. Willie and I talked about him as he was leading the comeback against Arkansas.
What a game!
Which, says a lot about what he's capable of right there. Being able to lead a team back against an SEC team. He's averaging 24.4. He's also, what I really like is getting, an average of about 70 yards rushing per game. So again, if you're in a 4-point passing TD league, need a guy who might get in the end zone with his legs at quarterback, Brendan Lewis is a guy that can do it all. Transferred in from, I believe, Nevada.
Yes,
right?
It was Nevada.
Right,
Nevada. Via Colorado, but yes, Nevada was his last stop before.
And, Coach Cramsey, who's the offensive coordinator there at Memphis, has to be one of the most underrated offensive coordinators in the country. He's constantly producing an offense that produces highly, very efficient, highly effective. So shout out to Coach Cramsey there at Memphis for getting all he can, not just out of his quarterbacks, but, he always manages to find a way to get some running backs there in the mix as well. But I'm happy to have Brendan Lewis, and I'm curious now who John takes, which now won't have to be picked until his last pick since we've all three got our quarterback. All right, Luke. Well, you're either going to be the first to take a tight end or get your – I guess you can wait on receiver, so you'll probably be the first to take a tight end here, I would guess, if I'm giving some
I am going to be the first to take a tight end.
Okay.
You guys are saying that you're nervous about the wide receivers, and that was my longest list, that and quarterback. So I'm going to get my tight end one here that I had circled. Yep. He had a bye week last week, so that helps. He is currently 26% owned. That is Jeremiah Franklin, tight end out of Boston College. He's had targets of 6, 12, and 10 with fantasy points of 12.5, 26.4, and 13.1. Only one touchdown, which is in that big game against Michigan State, where they scored 40 points in a loss. He seems to be a focal point of that offense. So give me Jeremiah Franklin against Cal, and we just saw what San Diego State was able to do against them. I feel pretty good with Jeremiah Franklin as my selection here.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you're just puzzled, like why he's still sitting here at 25%. He seemed to be an obvious guy that was going to be more consistent than others that kind of have popped in and out of the top leaders list. But to be under 30 is really, I was shocked when I went back through this that he didn't get over 30 after last week's performance. You mentioned only one touchdown. What's great about him, though, is even with just one touchdown, he's still hitting double digits. And we talk about the fact that if you can get a tight end hitting 10 points without touchdowns, that's the perfect situation, because that means you're going to have a lot, you're going to get the bonus when he finally does score. So he's a guy that's going to get you 10 points just from catches and yards, and then might be able to get you 15 or 20 points when that touchdown comes around.
And according to Fantrax, the only place to play college fantasy football after this week, where he had a bye, he's still tight end 10 overall.
LSU, 15% owned, and he has had 5 targets each of the last 2 weeks. We'll see if LSU can keep that offense working against Mississippi on the road. But I do believe Mississippi can put some points up on the Tigers' defense, even though it seems like their defense has returned compared to the last couple seasons. But I have a feeling that game will put some points on the board. So I'll take Bauer Sharp, LSU.
Yeah, and he's coming off back-to-back double-digit games. I see he's had 10 and then 18.3. He was the reason the other tight end was getting all the hype in the preseason, but Bauer Sharp was the reason I wasn't completely sold on Green there at LSU, because I knew they were bringing in another good tight end. And if you're bringing in a guy, for giving him NIL money, it's for a reason. You think that they're going to be able to play, so that's why we were a little less aggressive, on having Green quite as high in the rankings there for LSU, because a guy like Bauer Sharp came in and we knew was going to be at least splitting some of the targets with the other tight end.
Well, I should have listened to you, because I have a lot of trade as Green.
Yeah. Yep. So there you. Sorry, John. We'll send over some private messages next year in the off season. All right, Willie, that gets us up to you.
Yeah, I was gonna go running back, but I really don't want to get. I don't want to lose out on this tight end here. So he was taken last week. We talk about that Cal offense, what they look like, but one of the bright spots here was Mason Manning.
Yep.
He is 24.
That was another
24%
last week. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Don't take it away from me now.
Don't worry, I got it. There we go.
All right, so
seeing if you check that.
Yeah, so he's going to get you 6 targets. It didn't get in the end zone this week, but he still had 11.4. He had 12.4 the week before. So they have, if I can scroll up here, they get Boston College, who Fantrax has 124th versus tight ends. And he, let's see, they are, I didn't get BC's number there. You have that, Jeremy, as far as what they look like?
Where they're,
I have it. They're 51st. They've given up 5 touchdowns through the air. So hopefully he can get into the end zone this week.
Kind of about average. Okay. Yeah, I was scouting my next and final running back while you were doing that, Willie. Sorry.
I got you.
I better get that slot filled, because that's I don't need to take my tight end until the end now, since you guys took them all away from me. But I think I will join Luke in grabbing a service academy guy. Curious to see if others had him targeted. It looks like maybe from John's reaction he might have. Hayden Reed, the 6% rostered, what seems to be lead running back for Army, which we all know from our CFF history is kind of a nice little sweet spot there to get a guy from. If you can once you can figure out who Army's going to give the ball to, it's a good guy to have. And it looks like, based on his production so far, he's had 19 carries in 2 of his 3 games, with 15 and 19.5 points in those 2. So he's going against East Carolina. Not worried about that. Army is their own unique beast, and kind of throw out the numbers when teams are playing them. They're going to put up their yardage on the ground. And again, once you can find out who Army's RB1 is, it's a good thing to grab him. because he can typically be very productive. And I think Hayden Reed will continue on that track. 60%.
All right, I like it.
But
Wasn't on my list, but I do like it.
Okay, thanks. Well, that's a good thing about this. We all can still learn from one another. Go ahead, Luke.
Well, let's see here.
Oh, Luke,
I think I am.
If you want to take both wide receivers here, go ahead.
All right. I'm looking up some stats real quick on one, but for one, I am going to pick as my safe floor here, and that is wide receiver out of App State, Dalton Stroman. The offense, while the offense really centers around him and what he can do, while Jaden Barnes is getting a lot of the fantasy points, it's Dalton Stroman that moves people around, and he is getting utilized almost like Cooper Kupp, where he's being utilized going in motion, and then a slot guy. He's averaging. They had a bye this last week, but he's averaging 8 targets per game, 5 receptions a game, 98 yards per game. He has an ADOT of 15.5, so he gets the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to this week, I haven't ran anything yet for the G5, but he ranks 17th in targets per game in the G5 and 7th in yards per game in the G5. So Dalton Stroman is going to be my guy. They've got Boise State, who I just talked about how much Air Force threw the ball on them. Well, Air Force happens to have A.J. Swan, who throws 34 times a game and almost 300 yards per game, and that's with a game where he got pulled before the half because he had 3 turnovers inside the 5-yard line.
Right.
So I like just the pure volume and options that he brings. The other wide receiver I'm going to take, this is my swing. It's Gabriel Benyard from Kennesaw State. They play Middle Tennessee this week, and Marshall. We didn't know what Marshall would be like this year, and they had a day against this team. We had Carlos Del Rio threw for 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also ran the ball for 21 yards and a touchdown. He had 5 touchdowns against this Middle Tennessee defense. And like I said, DeMarcus Lacey was a recipient of one of those touchdowns for 116 yards.
Right.
Amari Odom and Dexter Williams are still battling it out. I think Amari Odom looked pretty well in their game this last week. So I think that he gets the nod in this week. But Gabriel Benyard, he's not seeing a whole bunch of targets, 9, 3, 6, 7, but he doesn't have a game under 50 yards. He's caught 2 touchdowns. He's utilized in the run game a little bit. So this is kind of my swing against a Marshall defense. Give me Gabriel Benyard.
Against Middle Tennessee defense. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah. But no, each year we also, like to find the defenses you don't want to play guys against and the guys that you want to play against any opportunity you can. And that's a great point. And for people that, again, are just starting to figure out the hobby, it's all about the systems. And that's not just the offensive ones. If you can find a very bad defense you can play guys against, do it. And Middle Tennessee seems to be that one this year that if you've got guys going against them, you want to plug them all in because they are very bad on defense.
To that point, Jeremy, I just looked to see when.
Yeah, go ahead.
I looked to see when UAB, who they played, and they're on a bye week. I did think about taking the bye week because they might have put up a lot of points against this UAB defense as well.
The bye week could beat UAB this week. Okay, nice. All right, for those confused, we let Luke go back to back there because everybody else had their receivers, so he didn't really cut the line. He didn't, get a pick out of order that was an unfair advantage. Same thing here, John. If you want to go running back, quarterback, feel free. But if you want more time to take pick your quarterback, you can. You go ahead. Your choice.
Well, I definitely have my two ready. So I'll start with my
go
running
ahead.
back because I didn't want Willie to snipe me, and maybe we're thinking, but there's two running backs I like, so we'll see if Willie takes the other guy. I can't believe he's available in over 70% of league skill, but Gavin Sawchuk of Florida State, man, Gus Malzahn's running back, he has been kicking butt. If you have not watched him, 21 and 27 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. We know Gus Malzahn is going to use his lead back, pound the guy. I like the matchup this week against Virginia. Virginia's putting points on the board, so give me Gavin Sawchuk there. And then Luke said the most important thing. This is a 4-point passing and 6-point rushing touchdown. So I wanted to get a quarterback who has some rushing upside, and maybe I get one in. So I'm going to go to Arkansas State. He's sitting out there, and all of a sudden I'm totally brain farting here.
He was second on my list. Yeah, second on my list. I love that pick.
Rainer,
yeah, Jalen Raynor. I mean, it's a great matchup against the University of Louisiana Monroe. I don't know if he'll get 30, but I think a 25 is a very reasonable.
Yeah, and that's one of those that's matchup based as well.
Yes.
It's not just that he can run, but he's playing against a team that he should be able to do everything against with Louisiana Monroe. So again, another guy that's really surprising to see under 30% there at 26. So you won't be able to get him in every league, but amazing you can get him in any at this point because we know from a couple years ago what his talent level is, and he's one of those guys that we talked about floors and ceilings. He is a guy that can the sky's the limit. He can have a 40-point game potentially this week, but he's got a pretty high floor as well. I don't see how he would get below 20. So he's a good one to swing for the fences with.
Yeah, John Sawchuk was fourth on my list, but I did want to take this guy instead, only because of the potential, and then it's just the explosiveness that I've seen from him the last couple of weeks, and that's going to be Caleb Hawkins from North Texas. He is 0% rostered.
Yeah.
Coming up, he had 37.3 yesterday against Army. So 13 for 99. He had 4 touchdowns yesterday. They get South Alabama, who is, let's see, where do I have them at? South
struggle to tackle.
Yeah, they are 100. They're 100, and that's nice. That's a nice way to put it. They are 122nd in the country giving up rushing yards. Let's see, they give up 155 yards a game. So I'm not saying that he'll get his another 4, but we'll take. Just give me 1, and that should be enough to get us to that 15-point mark.
I'm just scared of. I think that's a great one that you again going for that super high ceiling, and we know what he can do now because of this week. I'm just a little confused. I don't know what North Texas is. I don't know if they figured out who's going to get all the carries there. It scares me a little bit, but I do like the pick. It's just I haven't figured out yet what North Texas is focused on there at running back.
Well, as you said before, this is what we're going to learn. So,
well, yeah. Before we started recording, I told Willie that now it's conference time. Whoever starts this week for most teams is going to be the starter unless they get injured, because coaches have had time to play around with testing guys in different scenarios against weaker opponents, and sometimes these G5 schools get stuck playing a P4 school, and you don't know who's capable of what because they're overmatched. But yeah, now's when it gets to another level of interesting, because you get a lot of equal matchups to see what guys are really capable of, and what's going to bring out the best.
And this is usually when I get to the point where there's going to be a lot of single-digit rostered that I end up taking, and it usually has worked out.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys left me to take the last tight end, and then after this, we finish with some guys that might be left over from your list that you still want to recommend to people. So I'll take the time to mention one here as I decide between. Dallin Bentley from Utah is one of my considerations, but I'm also looking at Isaiah Cummings from Appalachian State. And frankly, they're both kind of equal here. Utah's playing West Virginia. App State's playing Boise. I think I'm going to lean to the lower rostered guy with Isaiah Cummings. I do like, aside from the 3 turnovers that Swan had before the bye, I like what App State's offense was doing overall in terms of being able to move the ball. Cummings seems to be a integral part of the offense. He's had 11.1 points a game, scoring 11, 7, and 15, and as one of those tight ends who hasn't got a touchdown. So, again, feeling like if he can get 11, 7, and 15 without a touchdown, that sets a pretty high floor for me, knowing like I should at least get 8 to 10 points from this guy, even though they're playing Boise, who always got a pretty solid defense. But I'm going to go Isaiah Cummings from App State to put our second App State guy here on the board. But
Jeremy, I love that. I love that pick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and he's only 3% rostered, Luke.
He was in one of my write-ups for fan checks that I did, but he's number 2. He has the most yards per game for a G5 tight end with 57.3 yards per game. He gets 6 targets, which is up there with Dorian Thomas at New Mexico. He gets 5 receptions, and one of those touchdowns that you said you were looking for, AJ Swan targeted him, and that was one of the interceptions that happened inside the 5-yard line. So he was close. He was close.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, and I've taken 2 guys that I mentioned, I would have grabbed last week, but they were on buys. And Isaiah Cummings was one I would have taken last week if he was available, but they didn't play, so now I'll take him. So we're finished, guys. Let's start from where I'm seeing you guys on the screen, at least at the top. John, you have a couple guys left over that you would have taken if you had more slots.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Zillin Perry, University of Louisiana Lafayette. He's only owned on 2% of the teams. Unfortunately, I invested in the wrong running back yesterday from Louisiana Monroe. It was the other one. It can always be a little bit tricky with the Raging Cajuns running backs, but I think we know their dominant running game. They're going to give their back, and they play Marshall, who is, let's see, they're really low on the running back list this week. So I did like that one. And then I think there was a couple wide receivers. Let me see which one. He's at 31%, so I won't say his name there. But then maybe this Kerry Chester with Braylon Braxton at Southern Mississippi. He's someone that I was interested in. He had 10 targets yesterday, and he had 10 targets in the opening week. And in between there, he did almost nothing. So I need to see it one more time before I really invest in him. But Kerry Chester's someone I'm looking at a lot.
And he's only 2% rostered. Yeah. I know he was our guy, Joe Arpazzi's big offseason guy. He seems to play that key position in the offensive coordinator's offense there for Southern Mississippi. So he's somebody that Purple Rain, was kind of touting in the offseason. And like you said, it's been a little hit or miss. He had a great opening week, a great week last week with 26.2. But his targets have been there in 3 of the 4 weeks. He's had, 8, 10, and 10. He only had the one game where he was targeted twice against App State. So, I think that's a solid recommendation if people are needing another guy. So, Luke, what about you? I guess we'll go in order. Willie, we like to finish with Willie. So, Luke, go ahead if you got any extras left over there.
Quarterback Dylan Lonergan going up against Cal. He was on my list. Not as much in the run game, but he's thrown the ball like 34, 45, 44 times. He's almost thrown for 400 yards once against Michigan State. 4 touchdowns in that one, and then in the game against Fordham. And then Amari Odom, I talked about Kennesaw State going up against Middle Tennessee, and I think that they're going to let him go in this one. Again, no rushing. And AJ Swan, while he was pulled, I'm going to think that they go back to him this week, and he's throwing some of the most in the G5, so just opportunity is there. Wide receiver wise, The guy that I really had circled was Cortez Barham for Memphis, coming from a late addition to Memphis from Nevada, and it looks like here in the last couple of weeks really found what they need. I mean, it's getting used to that playbook, but then I think that they are starting to link up, and FAU has been very porous against teams so far this year. And then Zylan Perry with John, he was on my list, and also I had Braylon McReynolds on my list at running back.
From where?
Braylon McReynolds, ULM.
Okay,
they are going up against Arkansas. Yeah, they are going up against Arkansas State, and Arkansas State's just they had a tough go against Kennesaw State this last week.
Yeah. Okay. Will, you got a couple you want to mention?
Yeah, I just start with the receiver, Camden Brown from Georgia Southern, 8% rostered.
Okay.
He's averaging 18.3. He scored in every game this season. They get JMU. There was only one.
I'm going to pause you right there. I'm going to just pause you right there because he's got a teammate, and I think you could do a coin flip and go with your guy Camden Brown or Dalen Cobb. They're both very similar seasons, and we know from the past Georgia Southern is capable of supporting two solid fantasy wide receivers. So I had both of them on my list, but since you mentioned Georgia Southern, I think you can't go wrong with Dalen Cobb or Camden Brown there if you're looking for a receiver.
Okay, it's so in Cobb, what's his rostership?
9%.
Okay, all right, I like it.
Yeah, both of them are really low.
And then the only running back that was still on my list that wasn't selected, that's going to be Damon Bankston from New Mexico. Had a huge game yesterday against UCLA, 15 carries for 154 yards and a score. That's his second straight game getting to the end zone. They came off of a bye, so they get New Mexico State. And he's averaging 19. Nice. He's averaging 19 and a half, and he's 7% rostered. And then lastly, quarterback wise, I did like Connor Weigman from Houston.
Me too.
Who's 23% rostered, and they play Oregon State.
Yes, I love the fact they're playing Oregon State. He's averaging 23.8 points a game. So again, like I mentioned, I had a bunch of quarterbacks that I liked a lot, and he was definitely the next up for me. I don't want to cut you off though. If you have some more, go. Otherwise, I'll keep this quarterback train going.
No, go ahead. That was it. Maybe let's see. Jacob Clark, I thought was interesting from Missouri State. He would be the only other one at 7% roster, and they get Western Kentucky. But I do like what Jacob Clark and what they're doing at Missouri State.
Let's see. Is the third quarterback up to bat for Louisiana Tech, who I think has now solidified the spot as the new QB1, and maybe finally the quarterback we thought they would have at Louisiana Tech for the last 4 years, since I think it's Sonny Dykes has been there. That I've been waiting on a Louisiana Tech quarterback to produce. I think Blake Baker is the guy that's finally going to do it. 1% rostered. He can be your guy in the deep leagues that you go and grab this week that not many people had their eye on, even after he had 27.5 points last week. He then follows that up with 18.5 against Southern Miss. They're not going to have a very strong schedule for the rest of the way, going against Conference USA opponents. So look for him to, third try might work for Louisiana Tech there at quarterback. Luke, do you know anything about him from preseason talk, or did he just come out of nowhere and beat these other two guys out finally?
Just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that defense is legit. Like, and that being in CUSA, like they are going to make a lot of noise. They're going to be this team. They lose the opening game 7-23 against LSU. They go out and crush New Mexico State. While they won 30-20 against Southern Miss, it wasn't close. It didn't feel like that. Like this defense is legit. Louisiana Tech, you might see playing for the Conference USA Championship, and don't be surprised with that. So I do like that pick.
And then one weird note
that's just a way off the radar guy that you can grab maybe if you're in deeper leagues and can't get any of the other guys we talked about.
One weird note though for them is that he is 1% roster, so he'll probably be here for a minute, but they do have 2 buys in the next month. which is a little strange.
Okay,
But something to look
good
out
point. I want to thank our guests again. John, always love having you. Again, everybody follow both of our guests here. John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar on Twitter. Luke can be found at his personal account, which I believe is Probasco Luke. And then, of course, the G5 Hive for all of your group of five insight and knowledge. And I would say especially deep in the off season, these guys are working around the clock to get those interviews with the beat writers that are extremely helpful for all of our notes that we now you like to take in the off season. So, and also, as he mentioned, writing articles for Fantrax as well. So we've got two Fantrax guys here, joining us on the team. We love them. Big shout out to Fantrax. They've been carrying the CFF game for years now when everybody gave up on it, and constantly improving the product every couple of years. There's our Fantrax plug. Any sign-off notes, John?
No, just thank you very much for having me on. I love it. Every year it's a pleasure to come on. Hopefully I'll make it to the postseason, Bert. We'll see what happens. And good to see you, Luke.
You too, John. And thanks for having me as always, guys. I appreciate it every time you guys think of me and the G5 Hive. Hopefully I can join Justice there at the top.
Yeah. Good luck with that. And that's it for me. Willie, good luck this week. You want to send us off here?
Yep. Wishing you guys hopefully 85 is that magic number. So let's all get there this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and good luck this week.